Can you give us any updates on? Looks like Alex was maybe his injury might not be as serious as it may have seemed.
He has a little. I got to make sure I say this properly. He's got a little chip out of his bone of his toe. I'll let the guys come up with the actual medical diagnosis, but it's not something that's going to hold him back. It's just a pain threshold thing. So, he was out here. He looked okay. He just had problems at halftime just pushing off on his toe, and we didn't know what it was. So I didn't want to risk him. Like if it was something more, I didn't want to risk him. So it was just kind of precautionary to take him out. So a bit of good news on the injury front, actually.
Do you think that happened during the game then?
His medical history, he had something like that a couple years ago, Jeremiah. I can't remember. Maybe it was the same chip that just came off. I don't know.
But it sounds like theoretically he could play as soon as this weekend then?
He can play as soon as he can tolerate the pain. There's nothing medical like a real broken toe in half, a bone that's broken in half. There's nothing like that that would prevent him from not playing.
And then Nico and Raul, anything on them?
No.
What about Jimmy and Josh?
They're out there working hard. They're a little closer. But yeah, we're still a ways away. I'm watching Will over there. Will looks good. He looks sharp. He'll be available. So we're getting there.
How do you feel about the way that you're balancing? It's been just a few games, but how do you feel like you've balanced as far as the plug and play as far as the roster goes so far as far as your rotation?
Well, I think the overall mantra of the club is I don't care, what competition, what game, Galaxy's the most important game now. We need everybody in a long MLS season. I played 5 teenagers last year. Kellen Rowe played every minute last year. I mean, there's a bunch of storylines for you guys to talk about. It's just, this is MLS. You need a big roster. You need quality players up and down your roster. You need young guys to come through. You need some of the senior guys to, stick around, stay healthy, and play. So it's always a work in progress.
I know you didn't too much appreciate as far as the mentioning of the streak, the way that y'all ended last season, but you still haven't won, an MLS match outright. So, what is their messaging, I guess, about that as far as going into this weekend?
Well, whether I like or dislike some of the, narratives that are out there, it's irrelevant to us because, we had a good performance against Motagua. We had a good performance against Leon. Not so good against RSL, but that was a 2-hour snow delay. There was issues there. Nashville's a good team. Sometimes you just have to compliment your opponent. So our narrative internally is that we've set a bar for ourselves early in the year. That was a pretty high bar, the last game. And what do we do, whether it's a league game or another Champions League game, how do we stay at that level? That's the narrative that we're talking about.
LA is on the other side of that. I mean, they had obviously a good openings against some good teams so far. But anyway, how does Costa look as far as the way that he's blending in? And
it's fine. He's a quality player. He's a world-class player. Chicharito is a world-class player. So it's a good team. Greg does a great job. But we'll be ready. We'll be ready for him.
What did you make of Rusnak's performance against Leon, and how would you assess the way he's integrating and gelling with the group?
Good.
As he gets more time?
Good. A lot of people might focus on the miss that he had in the second half. It was a good chance for him. But he had that one scramble where he hit it clean. The first half he was unlucky not to score. Scoring's always just the easiest thing to see. Some of the nuances, some of the details of what Albert does well, those are actually pretty clear to see to us. It's hard to get him off the ball. The sequence for the second goal started with Albert kind of lots of guys couldn't wiggle out of that. And then there was plenty of other times when Leon was pressing us in the second half and he was able to extend our possessions by just a clever little touch or a little dribble, a little shake, and he's out. So there's a lot of things that we like about Albert, and he'll just keep getting better.
Obed's gotten a lot of attention for his performances. How important is it for him to have guys like João Paulo, Raul, Nico around him to help him keep growing, but also keep him grounded?
He is you guys heard it, he's a grounded kid. I'm not overly concerned about that, but yes, we're all human. I have to look at the comments that I make and make sure that he doesn't, get carried away. He's still young. Your first question is the best question, is because that's one of the other things that I really appreciate about the Sounders and our culture. It started way back when, but, all of the senior guys have always helped the younger guys. And that's just been a tradition, even back in the 80s when I played. The older guys always helped me and Chance, and, in the 90s, young guys, Dickie McCormick coming up, all those guys. I mean, we all helped each other. And so that's true with JP and Christian, with Obed. It's Raul and Juan, Yaimar and Jackson, Steph Fry, with all the young goalkeepers that we have. I've always been very, very proud of the fact that the senior players care.
With the mask mandates, lifting and, things moving toward a living with COVID, how do you feel about that? You've been one of the big proponents of masking up.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I was always a big proponent of staying safe. And so when people are now saying that we can live with COVID safely if we do X, Y, and Z, I tend to believe science. I tend to believe people that are experts. I think, Jada, this country will eventually have to come out of this because COVID's here to stay. Do we do a little extra precaution? Am I a little more careful indoors? Yes. We can't afford to have a bunch of COVID cases around here. So I think common sense, being safe, all of those things will help this country open up and help get more people in the stands safely. It's what we're all aiming for, right?
So in your personal life, you're still more safe, or when you go to the grocery store, you still...
I feel safe. Look, I feel safe here with you guys. It's outside, we're outdoors, no mask. Indoors, we're all vaccinated. I think vaccination is one of my personal things. So.
What do you make of Obed's improvement from week to week? It seems like he's, looking at it from the outside, it almost looks like he's taking notes and then immediately being able to apply those notes to his...
I would say he's coachable. I think you saw growth in him last year with Defiance. And then at preseason, we knew we had something. But, look, without a couple injuries, is he going to start that first game in Motagua? Maybe, maybe not. And then once he got that opportunity, I think, yes, you've seen some, good steps going forward, being able to understand and maybe reflect on some of the experiences as he had in each game and try and get better. The film work that we do with him certainly is important, so that he actually sees it. But he's feeling it as well. He's living it on the field during those moments, and those are always good moments to learn from.
What does he do well that maybe surprises you, not just for a 16-year-old, but for
Stays calm. I'm surprised at his kind of just steadiness. Lots of kids are super talented, but they go up, down, up, down, up, down. Obed's pretty steady. We really haven't seen... There will come a point where maybe he takes a little nosedive. It's normal, because he is young. But right now, he's playing with a lot of confidence, and, he's been really steady, really calm.
I would imagine that some of the coaches at Defiance have been telling you about Obed, and I'm sure you've observed it yourself, but was there a point at which you said, okay, I get why everyone is getting... is there something that he does that, kind of was a light bulby moment that it's we can't...
There wasn't... I don't think, Jeremiah, there was one light bulb moment. From the minute we've taken over. We've always had young academy kids in. We've always tried to incorporate them in preseason and during the regular season. That's been pretty standard now for many years. It was just his overall ability to play. I mean, he didn't look out of place in training sessions when we brought him up last year. Now, that was training. It's not a real game. He played in Defiance and did well for Defiance, but that first real test was that game in Motagua. And I think he passed that course.